To have a true e-commerce site, you need to be able to accept payment online. Being able to take payment turns your website from a catalog into a real store. There's a couple of ways that this can happen. Someone can log into an account where they keep their virtual money, and they could transfer it to your account. A good example of this would be PayPal, which we'll set up in a future video. Another option is for someone to type in their credit card details into your site, and use technology on your side to communicate with a bank to validate and draw funds. An example of this would be Stripe, which we'll also set up in a future video. Now, all of this might sound a bit complicated, and that's because it is complicated. With credit cards, there's two important steps. The first is they have to verify the funds. Next, they have to draw and deposit the funds. We don't need to go into the details right now. What you need to know is that modern payment gateways like Stripe will take care of all of this. They verify the funds, draw them, and they deposit those funds into your business bank account. All you need to do is make sure your site is secure. You need an SSL certificate when you take the credit card payments on your own site. When an SSL certificate is set up correctly, you can see the little lock icon in the address bar of your browser, and that means that all the information you send back and forth to the website is encrypted and protected. Setting up an SSL certificate used to be very complicated, but because of Let's Encrypt, you can now get free SSL certificates. If you're using a good host, they'll have a button in your hosting account to get a free SSL certificate for your site, or they'll automatically create your site with an SSL certificate. If you can't get an SSL certificate, you'll want to find a new host since you will need this for e-commerce. Once you have an SSL certificate installed on your site, you can force the entire site to load over HTTPS since it's better security all around. So try that option first. To do that, in WordPress we can go to our general settings and then change the WordPress address right here to make sure it loads over HTTPS. Some payment gateways will show you warnings until you force your site to load over HTTPS this way. So if you're seeing some warnings about not loading over HTTPS, make sure to change it here. One of the most popular payment solutions is PayPal, and that's for a couple of reasons. The first is that it's incredibly easy to set up, both for the merchants and for the customers. The PayPal gateway built into WooCommerce only requires an email address. That's the easiest setup for any gateway. The other reason is that many people keep their spending money in their PayPal accounts. There's a greater chance for someone to spend that money than the money in their bank accounts. Another reason is that people feel safe using PayPal, both because PayPal is very safe and because people have a small amount of money in their accounts to start with. If there was a security issue, they'd lose a relatively small amount of money compared to someone getting a hold of their credit card and spending thousands. For all of these reasons, people love PayPal. Some online stores get over 50% of their revenue from PayPal. At the very least, it's worth setting up PayPal just to see how important it is for your business. If you have a product or audience that doesn't cater to people with PayPal accounts, you can always remove that option down the road. So let's go ahead and configure PayPal. We'll go to our WooCommerce site. Let's go to WooCommerce, Settings, Payments. And if we scroll down, we can see PayPal. Let's go ahead and turn that on. And if you enabled PayPal through the Welcome Wizard, you'll also see WooCommerce PayPal Checkout Payment Gateway in the list of options. If you don't see it, make sure you install and active this free plugin. There are tons of different versions of PayPal available to WooCommerce stores. I recommend that stores first experiment with PayPal Standard, which is built into WooCommerce, and see if their audience even uses PayPal. If so and you like that option, then go ahead and get the WooCommerce PayPal Checkout Payment Gateway plugin. It gives you a little bit more configuration. However, you need a business account, which takes a little bit more setup from within PayPal. I mostly want my customers to use Stripe for credit cards, so I'm keeping PayPal as a backup option. So I'm going to set up the simpler PayPal Standard method. We're going to configure this PayPal. Let's click Setup. The first two fields are about turning on PayPal and possibly turning it on for subscriptions, if you have that installed. Beneath that, there's the title and description. These are both used to describe the payment method to the customers as they're checking out. Most people are familiar with PayPal, so I don't think I need to add anything here. The PayPal email field is the email address associated with your PayPal account. Further down the page is PayPal Sandbox, which is a test environment. If you turn this on, it means you can make test transactions with a test purchasing account and receive that money in another test PayPal account. It's a bit putsy to keep track of all of your test accounts, but it is definitely worth doing to make sure that payment is working correctly. You can make a few test purchases before you make your store live. The debug log automatically logs a few pieces of information during the payment process. If you ever have problems with payment, look into this log to see where payment stopped. You might see an error in there which can be Googled to figure out the issue. You can keep this on right now since the site isn't live, but I recommend turning it off once you've made a few test transactions. You shouldn't log everything. Only log when you think you might have a problem. Further on down, there are some more advanced options, and there's two that I want to point out. The first is the PayPal Identity Token. Some websites have issues with something called the PayPal IPN. That is the instant payment notification sent from PayPal to your site. Without that, your site doesn't know that the order was actually paid for and will leave the order as unpaid in WooCommerce, which is not good. To get around that, you can configure Payment Data Transfer, or PDT, in PayPal, and that will circumvent the IPN. So, if you have unpaid orders in WooCommerce, but they're marked as paid in PayPal, definitely look into this setting. Or consider setting up WooCommerce PayPal Checkout Payment Gateway, which we mentioned earlier, since it doesn't use this system. The other setting that might be worth implementing is the PayPal API. Later in this course, when we look at managing orders, one of the things you can do is refund directly in WooCommerce. With the API enabled, you can mark an order as refunded in WooCommerce, and the order will automatically be refunded through PayPal. That's a huge time saver and prevents inconsistent data and confusion. You don't need to do this to launch your store, so I recommend doing it the first time you get a refund request. Spend a couple extra minutes following the link here to set up the API so all future refund requests will go much faster. When you're done with your PayPal settings, just click Save Changes, and now you can accept PayPal payments the way you want. It's pretty rare for an e-commerce store to just accept PayPal. They almost always let someone pay with a credit card. Credit cards are good because they let anyone pay without having to create some sort of account. While PayPal accounts might be popular here in the US, they're not universal, so it's important to let people check out with credit cards. If you went through the welcome wizard and selected Stripe, WooCommerce automatically installed the Stripe plugin for you. If you don't have this plugin installed, you can install it like any other WordPress plugin. I turned off Stripe earlier in this course because I didn't need it right away. So let's start by turning it back on. I'll go to Plugins, and here is the WooCommerce Stripe Gateway. Let's turn that on. We can dismiss these, and let's go to WooCommerce, Settings, Payments, and then Stripe. You may notice there's a bunch of different Stripes. Some of these work in specific countries, but for right now we're just going to set up this main Stripe. We can configure all sorts of settings on this page, but before we do, let's get the most important settings out of the way, and those are the 4 keys. 2 keys for live mode, and 2 keys for test mode, and Stripe makes it easy to do this. You can sign up for an account and get test keys without having to fill out any business information like a bank account, employer identification number, etc. That's a huge pain to get, and many old-school payment gateways force you to have that. So if you haven't already, head over to stripe.com and create a free test account. I've already created one. I've gone ahead and viewed test data and then gone to API keys. On this page, you can see your publishable key and your secret key, and I've already copied my secret key to my clipboard. I'll go back to my site, I'll paste in my secret key, go back to Stripe, copy my public key, and paste those both in there. If you have live mode enabled already, you can turn off test mode, and now you see this is live publishable key and live secret key. Let's go ahead and save every setting as is, just to show you what the default checkout looks like. I'll take a look at the store. Let's add something to our cart. We'll view the cart. We'll check out. And now instead of cash on delivery, we see PayPal and credit card Stripe. Let's click Stripe. Because we're in test mode, Stripe adds this message right here. So we'll just copy in this test credit card. You can enter any valid date in the future and any valid 3-letter code. And let's go ahead and save payment information to this account for future purchases. We'll talk about this a little bit later. Let's click Place Order, and the order is received. Payment was successful, and the order is marked as processing in the back end. It only took us a few minutes to process a test credit card transaction. Let's go back to the Stripe settings and configure these a little bit more. Users just need to see credit card. They probably don't need to see Stripe. We can even get rid of pay with your credit card via Stripe. We'll just say, pay with your credit card. We'll leave these as is. This is useful for customers to know who charged them for what. So go ahead and put your store name here. We also want to capture the charge immediately. If it does take you some time to create or ship the products, let's say a couple days, then you want to capture the charge once you've shipped the product. But for most orders, if you're shipping it in less than 24 hours, it's just easier to capture the charge immediately. We definitely want to turn on Apple Pay as well as Chrome Pay, and there are a couple theme options here. And lastly, there is saved cards. Saving credit card information is a huge time saver for the user, and it prevents all sorts of silly mistakes, like typing in the credit card number incorrectly. But the one important thing to note is that your site isn't storing the credit card number, it's storing something called a token. A token is a representation of a credit card number. Think of it as a special password just for your site. So if your site tells Stripe the password for a particular customer, Stripe will use the credit card number. Stripe is the one that's actually saving the information here. If someone ever happened to steal that special password and they gave it to Stripe, Stripe wouldn't process the card because it's specific to your account. In that way, tokens are much safer. If someone hacked your site, it's very unlikely that they'd be able to do anything with those tokens, so they're very safe. That's why I recommend enabling payment via saved cards. And the last setting here is logging. You can turn this on if you're having problems with Stripe. Make a couple test transactions and go onto the log and see exactly what's happening. I added this functionality to Stripe myself just to make sure that I can track down any weird bugs. There are almost never any bugs, but it's nice to have a log, just in case. When you launch, make sure to turn off test mode and make sure you have a live Stripe account ready to go with live keys. Save your settings and you're ready to accept credit card payments. To accept credit card payments, you may have noticed there's a lot more than just PayPal and Stripe. Just in the core WooCommerce plugin, there are 3 more options: direct bank transfer, check payments, and cash on delivery. Now these are what I consider offline payments, since there's no immediate way to accept payment. For the most part, you can go in here and turn on or off the method and it'll be available in checkout. If a user checks out with this method, their order will go on hold, and as soon as you have confirmation of payment, you can change the status of this order to processing or completed. But in addition to these offline methods, there are additional online methods, for example, Amazon Pay. At checkout, there's a button that lets a user check out with their Amazon accounts. It's super secure and really easy to set up. If you think your customers are also Amazon customers, then it might be worth adding this button, as it's similar to PayPal where users just have to have an account already set up. If you already have a brick-and-mortar store, as well as an online store, you might want to consider using Square. That way, you have one payment processor for all of your transactions. It's going to be less paperwork on your end, and the Square extension from WooCommerce can also sync your inventory between your online store and your physical store. We've covered only a few of the many hundred payment gateways, and all of them are slightly different. If you're brand new to e-commerce, I strongly recommend Stripe and PayPal. But if for some reason you can't use those, then you could find dozens more on WooCommerce.com. You may have noticed over the past couple videos a banner about PayPal Standard and WooCommerce subscriptions. If you have both WooCommerce subscriptions activated and you've configured PayPal Standard, you'll see this banner on the plugins page and a few other pages. I don't want to clutter up the admin for the rest of this course, so for the sake of demonstration, I'm going to deactivate WooCommerce subscriptions. If you want to use subscriptions with PayPal, then you could follow the instructions to set up the API, which will hide this banner.